right, people, what's up? How you guys doing? Obviously, I see the first comment in here. Shout out to you guys that are in here. Let's see if this transition works. Yay! There we go, Chris Mason. We did it. We did it. We did it. Hey, look, Chris Mason, Sooners 360. Definitely be on the lookout for information coming from him. You can check on Twitter. You can do all the rest of that stuff. Follow everybody that's giving information about this portal comeback that's going on, but definitely Chris Mason. Get over there to Sooners360.com, Sooners360, the podcast. He will be dropping a Wednesday night pod. He'll probably be on with Jason as well Wednesday morning to give more updates, recaps, all the rest of that stuff. So definitely get over there to Sooners360. And the Patreon is only $2. And of course, like, subscribe, do all those different things for the Horns Down podcast as well. But we are here with more recruiting info. Guys, we've been at it for a while. We've been really working this circuit, talking about it, all the rest of that stuff. So we're going to jump right into it. We will be trying to take some questions tonight. Obviously, during some of the different segments that we're going to talk about during the show, but after we're done with those, we'll try to open it up, see if you guys want to do a Q&A or whatnot. But with no further ado, Chris Mason, go ahead and talk about some of the verbals that we got today.
Well, let's just go in sort of order here. We've started the morning right off the bat with Caleb Nida from Western Kentucky. He's a center. He has center experience. He was at Virginia Tech before that. He has 2 years to play. He's 6'2", 297, 300 pounds, and he instantly gives OU what they do not have right now, which is a backup center. And since we played three centers the last two seasons, I think we can call that a win right off the bat. We have a backup center. We have a center our second team quarterbacks can work with in spring, that our second offensive unit can work with in spring. So it's a big addition. And again, he's got starting experience, and I just don't think you can overlook an addition like this. If you want to be a little negative on this, you can say that, well, maybe he just replaces Troy Everett. Maybe that's true, but he's also younger and healthier than Troy Everett. And those are two big, can't make the club from the tub, as we always say. Your best ability is availability. And this kid hasn't been injured and has played good football. Next, OU got a big commitment from Trell Harris, the wide receiver from Virginia. We talked about him last night. We'll kind of refresh you guys. He had over 800 yards, number of big plays. If you watch his highlight reels that have been posted on X the last 24 hours, you know that Trell Harris is a big-time playmaker at the receiver spot. Chris, I'm going to leave it to you because I know you love this kid.
Yeah. No, watching his film, I sit there and I say, look, I know just 6 foot, but I say, hey, he plays bigger than what he is. And also on top of that, the guy makes a lot of plays down the field, around the field, whatever he's running routes. He's doing a lot of different things. Really liked what I saw from him. And he's a big play waiting to happen. He's a guy that I think will be able to stretch the field. He is. I think that he will have way more production than Burks and Keontes. And one of them was injured, the other one was kind of a little bit all over the place. At times Burks got hot, at times he kind of faded away. But I think this is a guy right here that gives you another really good starter, and a guy at times can have one potential wide receiver one type potential and production. So this is something that helps Satania as still waiting on that flyer or whatever is going to happen with that. But that's something that helps Satania. That's something that helps Giovanni and guys like that, because he's a guy that can get open. So hoping that he can build chemistry with Mateer. And then again, just another big bodied receiver that can block on the outside. I believe that he can do that. I think that's something. There are certain keys to this offense that we needed. And I know we'll talk about tight ends here in a little bit, but again, this is a part of that. Having more explosive athletes for this offense that Arbuckle wants to run, but also at the same time being able to get guys that can help with some of the important plays, the key plays, some of the things that they want to run, as far as some of those screens, as far as some of the things that Arbuckle likes to do, it would be nice instead of having, obviously, hey, love Burks and I hope he goes and has a hell of a career in the NFL. But 5'9" wide receiver blocking on the outside, that's not necessarily going to win most of those battles all the time. Get what I'm saying, Chris Mason? But Trail Harris is just, again, I'm excited about this one. I think a lot of Sooner fans should be excited. And if you're a little bit hesitant, trust, I think you'll be excited once the season gets underway.
Chris, do I get a sense from you that perhaps Trell Harris is a better complement to Satania than Burks? That Burks and Satania were a little too similar in terms of stature and what they provided.
Yeah, I know when me and my uncle we talk about it a lot, and he says, hey, Burks, and I think a lot of people in the comments as well. We have some really smart listeners. A lot of people were like, "Hey, Burks looked good at slot." It was kind of a thing where he kind of got pushed to outside, which we know he can be an outside guy, but I kind of feel like he's more of a slot in this offense that we were running. But I think those two kind of they meshed well enough, but I think these are guys that can actually, kind of push push Shatanya to, at times to wide receiver 2 or 3 or whatnot, because I think these are guys that can go and have. This is the type of guy that can go and have a big game. So, I mean, it really just depends on what is the development behind him. Where is Elijah Thomas? Is Pettit going to be able to get there as well, and learn the offense, get the offense, and really go and make a lot of plays to impress this staff, but also the development of Giovanni Gibson and Jermichael Carter. So this is a guy where any of those three, in my opinion, could have a big season next year.
Okay. Obviously, the next guy was a little bit of a surprise that it turned around so quickly for OU. Was Amarion Harris. We'll just go talk about him next. Amarion Harris, the big offensive tackle from Arkansas, longtime connections with OU. Bill was recruiting him out of high school, so those connections are strong. He's 6'7", 310, 315. He can go. He can play guard. He can play tackle. He's done both in the SEC. I think, Chris, with Nida and Harris, the big deal here is that you go from 5 guys with Division I starting experience when the morning started, and you end the day with 7 on the offensive line. So you've got a center guard combo guy in Nida, and now you have a guard tackle guy in Harris who will legitimately push Foji and Fasusi for their starting positions. He's been an SEC tackle. Based upon what's out in the portal offensive line wise, I think Harris is about as good as you're going to get in terms of reinforcing the tackle talent in the room.
Is he a guy that you see sliding inside as the season starts with Foje still being outside, or kind of where do you project him to be?
I think you probably keep him at right tackle, and you have Foji kind of cross-trained at tackle guard, and you see how that works with Ozetta, who I think we should be cross-training at guard center, so that we've got 3 guys ready to play center. So I think that's a little bit of how I think they're going to play it. They're going to play it right off the bat.
All right. Well, keep on going.
All right, then the guy we've been talking about, Lloyd Avant from Colorado State, was next. He's a running back. He's also a kick returner. My sources say that Deacons really liked this guy, and that he was highlighted for his kick returner skills, his all-purpose back skills, and he's another running back in the room. So that gives you 5 running backs. He's a good receiver out of the backfield. He's done well there. And unlike Sam Franklin, and everyone's like, well, why is this not just Sam Franklin 2.0? Well, OU has a role for this guy right from the jump. He's going to be the kickoff returner. So while he's supplementing the depth in the running back room, he has a special teams focus, and maybe we'll actually see some decent kickoff returns next fall.
That's what I'm interested to see. I had a friend ask me today. He's like, I think he's a solid back. He could potentially, be in the mix for as far as running back. He said at least in the passing game. I said, yeah. So I think they're going to carve out a role for him. Our Ben G is in here. He's going crazy in the chat right now. But I could see that guy if he's explosive. Now I'm not saying he's the same guy. I think Nimblett was doing his thing for Texas this year. Obviously, we saw that up close and personal, especially when we get pushed in the back. But regardless, though, I digress, Chris Mason. All I got to say is that he could carve out a role there because, like I told my aunt, um, this offense, especially with some of the ways they wanted to use odd. If you go back to the Texas game and a couple of games, they threw odd screens. I think Temple, right? They threw odd screens. They had him run a couple of times. They showed a couple of things that they wanted teams to see, but also there were plays that just never, guy can't catch. Mateer maybe's throwing behind him, but mostly I don't know. The odd situation was really weird, and I get that, but there were certain things that they wanted to try to do for him, swing passes, all types of stuff, and it just never worked. So the whole
Some two back stuff, and then motioning
yeah,
odd out into the slot. We never got any of that, and obviously this kid can do this, and
yeah,
he's got some talent. Again, this gives you five running backs in the room. OU wants to be a playoff team, and part of being that is means you're going to have to go through a 14, 15 game season. You
mhm.
need to be load carrying with your top guys and load carrying. So this is a guy that you don't always have to keep, your primary running backs in the game. So, you can use him in this, get in some reps. And from that perspective, so I think this is a good addition. And like I said, they've carved out a role already for him, kickoff returner, which means we won't see any of our other core skill guys on kickoff returns, which is good because if he's able to get some returns in, your offense can then hit the field and you don't have that guy not available for the
it
first rep.
it was I was telling a guy earlier at the gym this morning. I was like, "Hey, that has seemed to work out for us in our favor because the last couple of guys that we've had returning kicks, we allowed them just to focus on their position, right? As Billy Bowman, Peyton Bowen, let's not get these guys injured or whatnot. But if we can have a true difference maker, and I'll be honest with you, whatever I think Doug Deacon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever he wants, I think we get it for him because you don't see that much attention to detail on special teams all that often. I think that he's doing his thing. So definitely excited about that get and excited about what that could be. That kid has some speed. I've watched. He got a little twitch, so we will definitely be checking that out. I'm excited to potentially. I don't know what they're going to do this spring. Again, me and my uncle were talking. I said, do you think that there's going to be a spring game this year with this one portal? I mean, one like transfer portal window being there, and even he was just like, I have no idea. He's like, I doubt it. I was like, yeah. It's like some schools will still do it. Oregon and Ohio State. Ohio State has like whatever that contract is they have with Fox right now, where they like televise it like that. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, I'd like to see it come back. I mean, at least in some format, maybe even just a controlled scrimmage, more of a controlled scrimmage environment.
yeah,
But obviously, whatever they did last year was kind of an abject failure.
yeah.
That's from the feedback I got from everybody. So the next guy is OU. I told you guys OU wants three tight ends. We talked up Hayden Hansen last night. Well, Rocky Beers, the tight end from Colorado State, visited on Sunday. Got to watch his sister kick Mississippi State's ass all over the court while the Sooner women, the number 5 ranked Sooner women, were dominating. And OU able to lock him up. He's from Colorado State, and he had nearly 400 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. He's 6'5", 250. Could he be 6'5", 255? Yeah, I mean, he's got a frame that looks like he could carry a little more weight if you want him to be an even bigger bruiser. But he's a good blocker, effective receiver, and he gives you 2 veteran tight ends to start reshaping the Sooner offense. You want to go in 2 tight end 12 formation. You have 2 veteran tight ends you can put on the field who are 270 and 250.
Yeah.
and that's a good starting point right there. Just some perspective. The backup tight end, his backup tight end at Colorado State signed with UNC and had about 200 yards receiving. So Colorado State, basically got some in the range of 600 yards and 10 touchdowns out of their two receivers who were moving to the Power Four level. I think that speaks that Colorado State, you know, was able to use their tight ends effectively, and Beers was an effective tight end. So I think he's your second tight end. We talked about three tight ends. This gives you two veterans to start, and I'm floating the hypothesis that OU is going to want to fill the third tight end position after they get their tight end coach in place, so that he has a chance to bring in his guy, a guy he wants.
So that you're sticking to that thought that they're going to wait for that guy to come in. Don't you think that that coach would have to be close to signing, right? Be close to getting hired by OU so he could do it within this. We got what, less than 2 weeks left now, right?
Well, the portal opened the second,
Yeah,
right?
and it closes the 12th, right?
Closes 2 weeks. It's two
Or the
weeks.
16th. Oh yeah, okay.
So
So
the
the 16th.
16th. So there's a little time to do some stuff, and they just have to get in the portal by the 16th. You can then recruit them after that and get them locked in and on campus by about like the 23rd. So those are the two dates to keep in mind. The 16th and the 23rd are probably the two dates that are most relevant. Maybe they do that, but I think, Chris, we should prepare that now they've got Rocky Beers, the Ashcraft kid from Wisconsin, probably not going to be coming in, and we'll see if they move on the UConn kid, and we'll see if the big Texas A&M kid is going to K-State following Klein or not. So we'll see what's going on from that perspective. But you got two tight ends in. They want a third tight end. I think we just, this, so that's the next commitment. And then the last commitment of the day, I think it's going to be the last commitment of the day, was Dakota Fields, the Oregon DB, who arrived on campus this morning and declared and committed about 5 o'clock today. To me, and he's 6'2", 190. He was a top 100 player in the country at Oregon. Wasn't finding his way onto the field at Oregon. Kind of left the Oregon team. Lanning kind of took a shot at him a little bit. I think this is really a case of, he's from, as I mentioned before, he's from California powerhouse Gardena Serra, which would be a school that Stacy Ford would be intimately aware of and have connections with. So I wonder if this is a situation where the Serra coaches reached out to Stacy Ford and said, one of our kids has kind of gotten lost at Oregon. Can he come visit you guys at Oklahoma and see if it's a fit? And obviously, I think OU has the culture in the safety cornerback room, and on the defense in general, where I think OU brought him in. You can guarantee Brent asked him some tough questions, and OU felt comfortable enough to move on and take his verbal commitment. And he adds depth at cornerback. This is a sort of a class replacement for Devin Jordan and Malik Hawkins. So this gives you a big guy. He could probably play safety as well. He's 6'2", 190. And this is OU probably saying we feel comfortable that in the same ways that OU was sort of able to rehab Kendall Daniels and Marvin Jones Jr., I think OU feels comfortable about their room and the leadership they have in that room with guys like Boganowski, Eli Bowen, Peyton Bowen, Reggie Powers, that they know that they've got the kind of support and the leadership in the DB room to bring Fields in and see if we can make this work.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Keep going.
That's the commitments right there. So I think, what we've seen so far is obviously guys tend to come in and then they commit the next day after getting all their paperwork ironed out on campus, and then seem to commit the second day. So if that's the case, I think the names we should be looking for tomorrow are, at this point, barring some other information that's not out there as of 9:27 Eastern time. I think we should be looking for a commitment from Parker Livingston and Mark Van Sumeren, the defensive tackle from Michigan State. OU seems to be very confident about those two guys.
So is Livingstone still on campus right now?
Sorry?
I said, is Livingstone still on campus?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, he came in this morning. The first we got a Instagram photo about noon. So maybe the visit will extend into tomorrow. Just looking around, getting a feel for OU. Of course, he's been on campus a couple of times before, but yeah.
So let's talk about him. So with Parker Livingstone, you get him. Are you through in the portal for a wide receiver, or are you going to get another one?
I think you're through. Trey Richardson from Vandy. I think once OU got Trell Harris, I think that was kind of like, okay, we've got our speed guy. So I think if they get Livingston, they probably do not bring in anybody else. They might bring in the Dozier kid because he has some connections to Satania, and just maybe kick the tires there, see what they think. They may not. But I think 2 portal wide receivers makes the most sense. Guys, we haven't got an official thing from Satania, but Satania on social media was asking OU fans, and now on social media asking the Norman community and the OU community to help his parents. I think maybe it was his grandparents or his great aunt, in Jamaica who've had devastation from that hurricane that occurred prior this fall. So I don't think Satania is going to be doing that because it seems pretty callous to be asking the OU community to perhaps help some folks in need that are connected to him to then jump into the portal or to go pro.
Well, I'm hoping that Kip, and Mateer go. I mean, whatever's official, whatever they're gonna do, you know how these kids are.
Yeah, I mean, just like Daniel Akin-Kimmy, all the OU coaches retweeted his charity efforts he did in December, where he was working very hard to provide resources to families in need during the holidays. I don't think they're doing that if all the coaches aren't doing that unless Daniel Akin-Kimmy is staying, and obviously all signs indicate that he is. So I think Satania is. I think the OU coaches know he's in, and yeah, well, so exactly. So but I think we're down. I think Satania's coming back, and then you've got Livingston as sort of the X kind of kind of a big flanker, and then you've got Trell Harris. Now that you've got your 3 starters, and then you are going to play and develop freshmen and young wide receivers per the edict from Jim Nagy in every interview that I've seen from him. So
I think it's going to be battles out there, and the whole thing is don't count out Giovanni and Jermichael Carter. I mean,
no.
I think that you're going. I'm hopeful that you see a more of a rotation there at wide receivers. So no, I mean, I think that's a good question. It's just are we done if we are able to get Livingstone, or do we have to, or are we going to still be going? Chris Mason, there is something I do want to talk about on the D line. So we could talk about the Van Sumeren kid here in a second, but looks like they offered a DN from UTSA. What's going on with that?
Yeah, they offered Kenny Ozowalu.
Mm-hmm.
He's from San Antonio. He's 6'5", 270. He had a pretty good first year. He redshirted, added 30 pounds. Had a pretty good first year at UTSA, 6 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. I think OU's thinking that they want to bring him in and he'll be a development piece, so that when they'll play him, bring him in this year, get him into the rotation, get him comfortable with the defense. But it's more a 2027 move.
Yeah,
because you would lose, all things being equal, we expect to lose Taylor Wine early to the NFL, and PJ graduates. So you lose 2 defensive ends. This guy means that maybe you don't have to be in the portal looking for a defensive end next year, that you've got this kid who's a big defensive end, Danny Okoye as your speed rusher, and then you got Wyatt Gilmore, and then you got those three guys
Crew Jones will be on campus. Potential.
Daniel Norman,
Yeah,
Matthew Nelson,
yeah.
whoever else we add. So they give you three upperclassmen for 2027 on the defensive end side of the ball, at the defensive end position.
All right. I was just wondering about that. I was like,
He's a
what?
big kid. If you see the photos
Yeah, no, I've seen the photo.
of him next to Chavis, he's a big freaking kid.
Yeah. So yeah, Van Summeren. So do you expect that to happen? Who is the next person to pop? It should be the Van. I mean, I said Van Buren. Excuse me, Van Summeren. It should be
It
Van
should be Van
Summeren.
Sumeren, who had 52 tackles for Michigan State last year. Started for them in the Big Ten. He was the fourth leading tackler on the team from the defensive tackle spot. That's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
He's 6'3", 300, 305, 310 range. Would be a veteran that you could plug into your defensive tackle rotation and just plug in the need. So for plug that need and give you the depth that you want. Would OU go for a second defensive tackle? I'm not sure about that. I kind of thought they would, but we would see. So I think it's Van Summeren, and I think if OU's going to land him, I think they need to see Parker Livingston sometime tomorrow.
What spots, as far as you're concerned, do you think we're done at? Would you say cornerback, probably D line if once we lock up Van Summeren, and if we get the DN from UTSA that you were just talking about, would you say we're done? Well, we're not done defensively. We're done with those two spots at the very least.
I don't see us adding another cornerback. There could be a safety that pops in that interests OU. There's no noise there yet. I think OU would be done at cornerback, and the only question would be if they can get Van Summeren, do they want to go for another defensive tackle, and what strategy are they going to follow there, Chris? Are they going to look for a young guy that is struggling someplace and needs a change of pace, or are they going to look for? I don't think they need another senior. I don't think you need any more veteran defensive tackles. So I just wonder if they go defensive tackle, do they go young and somebody they can bring in and add to the mix, or someone who would be an upperclassman next year after you potentially lose Stone and Jaden Jackson. So I think that's the question at defensive end. Yet I think it's just one kid, and if they don't get this kid, OU may pass and not add a defensive end.
So let's stay on the defensive side of the ball, but keep this. So there's two questions in here. So Jimmy Satterfield said, will they go after another running back? We'll talk about that right after this. But T Boomer, he said, hey, we need two linebackers. So what's going on? Because I've seen the San Diego State kid, the Chambliss kid, just committed to Nebraska, right? So.
Well, that doesn't really mean anything. Nebraska doesn't seem to be holding on to their guys very well. They just lost their quarterback, and they're kind of freaking out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Cole Sullivan, the Michigan linebacker we talked about last night, seems to be still deciding between OU and OISH and Michigan, going back to Michigan. So I think there's a chance that if OU gets Cole Sullivan, OU might call it a day, but we are still waiting on what OU does with Owen Heineke. I think Kip's coming back. Otherwise, you would have seen OU bringing in a lot more linebackers and trying to get guys to commit. OU is waiting on what's going on with Heineke. They have the Gideon Lampron kid visiting in this coming weekend on the 9th, coming in on Friday the 9th. So OU's just trying to figure out what's going on with the linebacker position. If they lose Heineke, I think one linebacker is a must, and then I could see them adding a second linebacker. But it just depends. If they get Heineke back, I think you just take one guy. And I think they would call the Cole Sullivan kid is the player they would like to get there. So it's fluid there at linebacker until we can get some answers on Heineke. And the NCAA throwing eligibility years at basketball players left and right may have opened them up for a chance to get something. Chambliss, his lawyer, is sending notices out daily from Ole Miss. So I think I think I could see the NCAA just saying, just shut up. Here's your waiver. Go away.
Yeah.
Just from that perspective. So if Heineke gets his appeal, and then you bring in the Cole Sullivan guy, and you've got James Nesta, and you've got Samo. You've got a pretty loaded linebacker room for next year.
So, two-part question, real quick. So, first off, do you expect Nesta to compete for playing time next year? Do you think he's still in that BV program, linebacker program?
Yes,
And on
yes.
top of that, hold on. On top of that, I think probably the more important question just right now is where is Cole Sullivan? Is he still on campus? I think that he's
No,
supposed
he's
to.
back home. He's back
Oh, he's
home.
back, yeah. So yeah. So he'll be meeting with Michigan and all the rest of that stuff because I know OU is supposed to. I'm sure OU is going to try to, get another meeting or something like that at some point with him.
It sounds like OU's going to try and, has basically asked, well, if you're going to let Michigan do it in home, will you let us do it in home?
Yeah,
And I think the general thought is that they said, yes, yeah, sure. We'll let you make a last pitch as well. So we'll see what happens there. It looks like Michigan has rolled back the 2 offensive linemen that were going to go to Texas. So Texas looks like they're striking out on those 2 guys. So Babalola just announced he was coming back. He's got a knee injury. I'm not sure that he was really a viable transfer candidate anyway. Plus, Michigan was paying him a lot of money, and OU has a lot of money tied up in Fasusi and Foji. But Michigan's losing some guys. They are taking some hits in the portal. So we'll see. I think on the offensive side, things are a little more stable. On the defensive side, I think things are a little uncertain with as far as Michigan goes, just in terms of Whittington came in and brought all of his sort of stable group of offensive people with him. On the defensive side of the ball, he's kind of winging some stuff together, and I believe he let the Michigan defensive coordinator go, Martindale. I think, pretty sure that's true, and bringing in his own guys. So we'll see. But obviously, OU needs a linebacker, and if they get a Heineke decision, I think the guy they've kind of got in the holding area is Owen Long. The moment they know they're not getting Heineke, OU's going to make a big push for Owen Long and get him on campus and pay him what he would like. And I don't think they can do that because they need to obviously, if Heineke's coming back and not going pro, they've got to bump Heineke's NIL number up.
yeah, rightfully so. But with Nesta, you do expect him to possibly crack that rotation.
Yeah, I mean, everything said that he was doing well. He got a little banged up, but he was playing well, and everybody in the Switzer Center seems to be pretty confident that he's gonna be that he's ready to become a guy. The wild card at linebacker obviously is Marcus James, who absurd physical gifts, size, athleticism. If he at all picks things up quickly, he'll be hard to keep off the field because he's 6'4", 235, and just flies across the field. I mean, he's just an athletic freak.
I got you. So let's go ahead and talk about Jimmy Satterfield's question with running back. What's going on there? Like I know that Avant, it's not necessarily the stopping point or the end point, right? Obviously.
Well, so I think folks need to understand that OU doesn't have RB1 money.
I'm talking to Topher. You're good. You good. Keep going.
He doesn't have RB1 money to spend for a portal running back, right? We don't have the money to throw at Isaac Brown or Hollywood Smothers, who went to Bama, or anything like that. OU's not looking to throw RB1 money out. But if there was a running back that wanted to, I know that there are some people have opinions of DeMarco Murray, and I'm not going to get into all of that nonsense. But if you're a veteran running back who's looking to try and get your path to pro, Thievery RB money is what you guys just paid for Raleek Brown. So for an all-purpose back,
Did they get relieved?
they did get Raleek. Yeah, Texas got Raleek after missing on 4 other running backs. Yeah. So that's what RB1 money is. So if there's a running back out there, maybe that's Caden Durham, maybe that's CJ Baxter from Texas, who seems to be very interested in some OU people in social media today. Maybe a back who needs to rehab their career. They're a veteran running back. Playing for DeMarco Murray and playing for OU might be attractive. So if they're one of those guys is willing to take a lower NIL deal,
Chris Mason. Did you say the same thing? I'm like, wait a minute, what?
they
I
got
know he was on campus. I know he was visiting, but
oh yeah.
you think they got him?
That's what I'm sorry. I thought he verbally committed. Did he not? I
No,
thought you.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay.
BNG, correct us if you're wrong, man.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Again, guys. Oh, you got 6 commits today. My attention level to what Texas has been doing hasn't exactly been very high.
I mean, all eyes point towards that happening. But yeah, but back to normally scheduled programming. So you're saying say those 2 running back names again.
All right, so two guys that have connections to Texas to OU. Caden Durham, obviously.
Yes.
If he wants to come and be a Sooner, I think he just needs to reach out to OU and say, here, what are you able to offer me?
Mm-hmm.
So, from that perspective, sorry, it's predictions of Raleek Brown to Texas. My bad.
Pierre said we had 7. You said 6. I think we did have 7. Oh, that's including Hanson. We have 7.
Yeah, Hanson. We got Hanson yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's 7 total, 6 today. Pierre Gaines. So to be specific, so I think that's the deal with Durham. But like I said, out of nowhere, C.J. Baxter appears to be following some OU people. Now that could mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Or it could turn into some conversations where C.J. Baxter, who is going to be 2 years removed from his knee injury next fall, and that tends to be sometimes when things kind of bounce back for running backs especially. So we'll see. Or he could be looking for some advice on where he should go. I don't know. So we'll see what happens there from that perspective. But I think that's where. So Chris, I think after if OU gets Livingston and Van Sumeren, I think we can call the first phase of OU's portal activity closed. Where Nagy had a specific list of stuff he needed to get done.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I need tight ends. I need a running back. I need wide receivers. I need O-line. And ideally, I could get a front-level defensive tackle. Right? The must-haves in this portal situation. Right? And you picked up a cornerback out of nowhere, which was good. Okay, so you got O-line, tight ends, wide receivers, and a defensive tackle. That was your must-haves based upon what we lost or what OU processed out of their roster. So I think that sort of ends, and then linebacker is sort of the mystery. If you can pick up a linebacker, pick up a linebacker. So I think next weekend we might see some of the more speculative stuff in play by OU, bringing in players or locking down players that are more speculative, like the defensive end Kenny Ozawalu. That's sort of like that's sort of a more speculative piece there. I think OU will try and bring in 2 more offensive linemen that have some development runway to them, to increase the talent and the numbers in the offensive line room. And then I think once you've got all these things ironed down, you look at your budget. Hopefully you got a new tight end coach in play. Hopefully he's bringing in a couple other targets he likes to get your 3rd tight end. So then you're looking at your budget and you say, okay, I've got some money to spend to give somebody at RB2 or RB3 kind of slot. Thievery, just to educate you on Oklahoma, we don't need Jaden Woods. We have Danny Okoye. Okay? We don't need a redshirt sophomore defensive end from Florida. We have Danny Okoye. He's bigger, faster, and he's been in our defensive scheme for 2 years, and he's about to terrorize the big. He's about to terrorize the SEC next fall. So we don't need Jaden Woods. He doesn't do anything for us. So Hollywood Smothers going to Bama. He got paid. Bama desperately needs a running back and to rediscover their running game. OU's in a similar boat, but OU has more returning running backs than I think Bama does, and has more. And OU likes their incoming freshmen maybe a little bit more than maybe Alabama likes theirs. So they've got a really talented. They signed a really talented high school freshman. So we'll see. Thank you, Boomer 129. We do have Danny Okoye. We don't have to. When you have developed depth and talent on your roster, you don't need to go out to the portal for starters every time. And Jaden Woods wants defensive end one money, and we have that locked up with all SEC defensive end Taylor Wine, PJ Adewale, and Danny Okoye, just to name 3 players off the bat. So we don't need Jaden Woods. I mean, he's a good player. He did well last year. So, we got Marvin Jones Jr. last year to flesh out our defensive end lineup. We now have more younger, talented defensive ends in our development pipeline, because we have a development pipeline at defensive end. That's why Taylor Wine is better than Colton Vasek or anybody else other than Colin Simmons that Texas has.
So, Chris Mason, are there any other names? And people, go ahead and start putting your questions in here because we're getting towards the end of this pod. But are there any other names out there that we should be on the lookout for that OU is potentially tied to at other positions? I mean, if you don't get Livingstone, like, what's the next move?
It's the Dozer kid, Davion Dozer from App State.
Got you.
Who played at Arkansas, 6'4", 205, had 500 yards receiving with like a 23-yard average clip. So he would be the guy that you would go there. I'm sorry, I don't know who Lance Jackson is because he's never on any SEC lists. Feathery. So come back to me with an SEC guy that I actually know about. So yeah, I think it's Dozier if you don't get Livingston. After that, I don't know. If you don't get Van Sumeren, I don't know what OU's move is next. Maybe they try and circle back with
Sigler.
Well, Sigler seems like he's locked in with Auburn. Maybe try and roll back with the Harris kid from Kentucky. So we'd have another Harris. I don't know that OU needs a cheetah in this class. It's got to be the right guy. So it's got to be the right guy. And you've got players already in that position. You've got some flexibility there. So, whatever the Feathery. Go relive the Texas game somewhere else, please. Sorry, it's Austin Ramsey. Thank you, Topher, for correcting me. Maybe they reach back to him. He's a big body guy. From that perspective. So, but OU canceled Sigler and Ramsey because they thought they had Van Sumeren locked up. So that would be a drastic turn of events from that perspective.
All right. Again, any other names that we should be on the lookout for?
Well, I think based upon what's going on, it's the linebacker from Bowling Green. Is it Gabriel Lamprod? I think that's his name. That's the only other guy I think has a scheduled visit right now for January 9th. OU's brought in a lot of guys. Over the next couple of days, I think you're going to see more visits scheduled for next weekend. But right now, if you get Livingston and Summerlin, that puts you at 9 players. And I think somewhere in about a 12 to 15 class is probably where exactly OU wants to go. The Georgia Tech offensive lineman, everybody keeps saying that he maybe is going to Florida following their offensive coordinator, Busta Faulkner. So we'll see what happens there. If OU could arrange that and bring him in. I think that would be an interesting addition. Although you got the Nida kid, so there's a little bit of duplication there. So we'll see. I think now that OU got Harris, Amarian Harris, and Nida, I think the next two offensive linemen will be some guys that have some more playing time. Some guys with 3 or 4 years that OU can develop a little bit.
Let's go back to that question that was asked up here.
Who's Mateer's backup?
Yeah, my gun sweetness. My gun, yeah.
Okay, so I would say probably I would guess it's going to be Neubauer. Would be his garbage time backup.
You don't think there's going to be a guy that they designate or they look at in the portal as far as
as I understand it, if they lose a quarterback, they have some names in the portal that they're tracking.
Okay.
Lower level guys that they like. So if they like them more than a Neubauer, then you may see that flip in the second week, and see you bring somebody in, and you may see somebody hit the portal as well. But 4 quarterbacks is probably enough to carry to get you through a season. I know they like Bo Bentley. I would imagine Bo is going to be, he's going to be fighting with Neubauer for the backup job, and Jet New, if that's the 4 that you have. So I think that's the situation OU will find itself in. There's no talk about them adding somebody like, I don't know, Michael Van Buren or somebody like that who's kind of getting caught wayward with the QB, the big QB shuffle.
Yeah. He's somebody that honestly I'd tell him, hey man, TCU, SMU, Baylor, teams like places like that, go ball out if you can. I mean,
yeah, I mean it's interesting where he will end up. Maybe he'll end up in Nebraska. They need a quarterback now. That wouldn't be. I'm not sure he wants to go to Lincoln. Who wants to go to Lincoln? But yeah, as
where I was just thinking of that. Boomer 129. He said Dylan Raiola is still available. Where is Raiola? What's going on with that? You would have thought his name would have been.
Well, and the key question is what's going on with Dante Moore, and what's Oregon going to do if Dante Moore declares?
Yeah, which I honestly think that he probably should, simply because his class is just so weak.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, Raiola was rumored to be at Oregon at one point. I've not heard that since then, and haven't heard his name much. Maybe the market's not what he thought it was going to be. It's odd, but
He may
I don't see. I don't see him. Maybe he goes to Cincinnati to replace Brendan Sorsby. I don't know.
Yeah.
I certainly don't have any connections that would see him in Norman. Maybe go to Georgia. Maybe he was supposed to go there at one point. He could. I think Gunnar Stockton is a year ahead of him. I don't know what's going on there, but OU. There's no signs that OU's looking to make a splash at backup quarterback. At least not right now. Maybe that changes, but right now they're not. I think it would be more of a surprising name from that aspect. Like a name like, oh, who's this guy? Well, some guy Nagy found.
I think it just popped. Raleek Brown to Texas.
All right. So I was wrong, then I'm right? Is that what's basically you're saying?
Yep. I'm looking for.
Will Compton has some words. Has some words to say. Ashton Daniels is going to FSU. Okay, I'm trying to pretend I care about that. Sam Levitt to LSU. I don't know. I don't see anything saying. Jaden Gibson went to South Carolina. The Hawkinses have gone to
West Virginia,
which good for them. Hope that works out for them. I think Malik could have if he had untethered himself from his brother, Malik could have gone a lot of different places. But I think that's a spot where his brother could start. It's a scheme that should work for him. I don't know that it's going to develop him for the NFL, but yeah, it's definitely he can start, and that's where he just needs to start playing. So that's the good vibes there. But yeah, there's some mysteries out there. I think one last thing I would like to talk about, Chris, is that we can get to the late pick thing in just a second, but Chris, I think regardless of what happens on the field this fall, I think it's clear that the efficiency, execution, and efficacy of the front office was highlighted today,
Yeah.
right? You got 7 kids in early that you wanted, and you landed 7 of them.
Yeah.
And you got key guys that you wanted. You have a game plan. You got guys in you wanted, and you got them. So, hey guys, when you're posting names and stuff, guys, please don't give us please let us know if that's your opinion or if you're seeing something on Twitter, guys. Michael, Durham to Florida, sure, that could happen. If that's actually signed, then say that, please. Just say. But if you think that's where someone should go, just give us some indication in there. Hey, I think Durham to Florida, something like that. Because guys, stuff's just flying around a lot, and I don't know that Durham's going to Florida. That's not, and I've not heard any school for him. So from that standpoint. So I think, Chris, that's the one big thing is today we saw proof one of why a professional front office led by an NFL caliber GM could make a difference for OU on the field. I mean, this is the portal they were prepared for, and they executed everything perfectly today. They had contracts signed, got the guys they wanted in, and didn't leave Norman until they put pen on paper. They got locked down. They negotiated very easily. Didn't have any problems there. I mean, there's stories of guys like Calandro, the ex-Boston College QB who's may go to Georgia Tech or FSU. Like he showed up at FSU and his money guys ran into a wall with FSU and he left after an hour. So there's all these kinds of stories flying around everywhere, and none of it's occurring at OU. Some of the names we didn't even know were coming in. So Nagy's doing what he wants to do. He's identifying players, getting them in, and landing guys in an efficient fashion. Where OU had basically, I think 10 guys come in for visits this weekend, over the weekend, not counting Livingston and Van Summeren, and they landed 7 commitments. So that's a very high efficacy rate in terms of the guys you're bringing in. So I think that's the big finding of the day is that a professional front office staff that is preparing for portal day for 3-4 months in advance is maybe the future of college football.
I concur. I really like this staff. I really like what they're doing. You know how I feel about Nagy. I've always felt about Nagy. I think Nagy is going and doing work. I think he's been doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And one thing I would say that has been totally different in the past than in the past when we dealt with the portal is that we've never struck gold like this this early. It's always kind of been late. Like, what the hell are we doing? This and that. They're taking their time and dragging their feet. Blah 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 blah. And now you're seeing things happen. It's been a lot of really solid pickups. So now it's time to get the rest. Hopefully we get Livingstone tomorrow. Hopefully we get Van Summeren tomorrow, and we keep on trucking. I think for me, it's about getting another. I think it's about getting another running back in there as well. I think you got your tight ends. I think that you got 2 of your tight ends. I think now you need one more. And I think you need to diversify and go get a receiving tight end. Not saying that these other 2 can't go and be receivers. I've seen them actually catch balls and all the rest of that stuff. And I think that again, they're part of those keys as well that I said to this offense because now you have those inline blockers. Now you have those guys that can hold up and help the run game. I think help is on the way for the run game for sure. But you have to have production and you have to have healthy guys that are available. So I think you're doing all the right things, but I think this staff has done an incredible job really identifying what's going on. You know, getting the boosters, selling everything, selling not the dream, but the actual pitch to everybody to get them ready to be able to go after just about whoever they wanted to. But I think now you're seeing that, yeah, these guys may not be the Cam Coleman or whatever, but I think at the end of the day, you're not just getting quantity, you're getting quality. You're getting a lot of guys that, you know, a lot of other teams really wanted and would have usually have gotten, but oh, you stepped up to the plate and got these guys. Trail Harris, I think that's going to be a huge addition, but I've been really impressed with what they've done over these past couple of days to get all this stuff done. And people were screaming for Rocky Beers, got Rocky Beers. So I mean, you got these kids to campus, and for the most part, you got who you wanted. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, you ID'd who you wanted. You landed them. Hayden Hanson was the number one tight end you had on the board. The number one sort of, this is a guy we just don't have. This is the physical body type we need for the SEC, and we don't have it. You go get that guy. You add another guy who can, so you're playing 12 formation stuff. You have two veteran tight ends who can hit and have the physical mass and strength to just, block SEC players. And then I think you get the wide receivers, the offensive line today. And if you can get Summerlin and Livingston, you're pretty much 75 to 80% of what you needed out of the portal, and that's 4 days in, and that allows you to do some different things. And you got some roster flexibility. You can do some different things with some different players. Maybe find some younger offensive linemen who you can add to the talent pool in that room. You can kick the tires on another running back, bring somebody in and see if it's a fit. You can find that other tight end, and I think that puts you. And then you can get maybe there's a good group of linebackers in the portal. We'll see what OU's linebacker needs really are. But I think we're a little stuck with OU waiting on what's going on with Heineke.
All right. We got anything else that we need to discuss?
I'm going to be on Jason Watkins' show on probably Wednesday morning. We're probably going to take a pass tomorrow unless some verbals come in and we maybe have a quick show to talk about them. But other than that, we're going to keep giving you guys updates on the portal. And I think next weekend, the portal information and who's coming in could be very interesting in terms of what is OU's strategy with the other 4 or 5 spots that they have to use in the portal if they're able to lock down Summer and Livingston tomorrow.
All right. Well, people, look, we've been on here. We're here for a good time, not a long time. Shout out to our sponsor of these recruiting pods, Kaizen Performance Fitness. Check them out here in Norman. Again, that's Kaizen Performance Fitness. Go check out what Garrison and crew have going. But with that being said, look, like, subscribe, do all those things for all 3 channels. You got the Hall of Fame College Football Podcast with Jason and Coach. You got the Horns Down Podcast with myself, and you got Students 360 with Chris Mason. So until next time, people, we will be back with more once something pops. So again, like Chris Mason said, we may be back tomorrow. So definitely have those bells already clicked on and all the rest of that stuff. That way you get those notifications. With that being said,